Who's that Pokemon? It's
Mouth breather! When I was in 5th grade, about 10 years old, I was tasked with monitoring the halls at my elementary school before and after classes. I was pretty badass, you could say. But I only did this for a few days before I decided I didn't want to anymore. And there was one main issue I was adamant about. I had to put my foot down. That issue was that I was asked to tell kids not to play on their Game Boys in school because video games are not allowed at school. This is when I knew I was fighting on the wrong side of the war, and I had to turn in my badge. My career as a hallway monitor was over because I wasn't going to be the one to tell a 7-year-old he can't continue his journey through Kanto before class. As a matter of fact, I encourage him to keep fighting his way through Kanto. I mean, if you take away the Game Boy, it's only a matter of time before that kid starts slinging some serious hard drugs. Ah, man. Pokemon was absolutely magic as a kid. I'll never forget firing up my Game Boy Color on a Saturday morning, a fresh pack of AA batteries next to me, and deciding to start a new game in either my red version or my blue version, you know, whatever I was feeling at the time. I would always try and beat the game in one day. Did anyone else do this? It was like speedrunning, but for special children who were addicted to Pokemon. Now, I've tried playing Sun and Moon. Hell, I even did a full playthrough of Pokemon Shield specifically for this video, and that's saying something, considering after Sun and Moon, I wanted to take a swim with my toaster. But the direction of the games, and the games overall, have found themselves rather far from the roots of the series that popularized it in the first place. What I want to do is explore this today, and see if the Pokemon games are actually getting worse, or if I'm just becoming a boomer who's now jaded by nostalgia. Before we get into this, I want to say that I separate the mainline Pokemon games based on a format of old versus new. Personally, I consider Black and White 2 the last of the old Pokemon games, and anything newer than that we will consider a new Pokemon game. To correctly compare old and new Pokemon games, we need to understand what the difference is between old and new Pokemon games. Now, this might be controversial, but I think the ultimate difference between the two is that the old and new games are no longer the same genre of video game. Let me explain. Let's start up a new save of one of my childhood favorites, the first generation Pokemon games. In Red, Blue, and Yellow version, you are introduced to who Professor Oak is, what Pokemon are, and you're given a starting Pokemon. You get one practice battle against your rival, and then the professor is just like, okay, glad I taught you how to fight with animals for Pokédollars, but the mart in the other city has my Amazon package that I had shipped there on accident, so if you could just, go get that for me, that'd be great. KK, thanks. No more tutorial. No more help from this point on, really. Within your first 5 minutes of playing, you are a child on an adventure in a new world with so much to discover, and no exact mention of what you're going to do at any given time. You have freedom in your new world, and it's at this point, it's on you to figure out how to complete the task to beat the game. Now, let's go to a different world. A world where I cannot be trusted to put my pants on by myself, and that will make sense in a second. If the first generation of Pokemon games was made in the style of today's current games, it would look something like this. You meet Professor Oak, you get a Pokemon. You have an 8-minute long dialogue about how your rival is going to be your best friend and root you on. By the way, what the hell happened to the mean rivals? It was a nice way for them to motivate me to kick their ass. Then your rival will pick the Pokemon that will make it extremely easy for you to beat them the entire game by type matching themselves into a disadvantage. You wipe the floor with your rival, and for the next hour, they are going to make what should be a 29-second walk to Viridian City, absolute hell. Every few steps you're going to say, hey dude, we got to get Professor Oak's package, as if I didn't read anything from the last segment of the game. Maybe my rival literally thinks I don't know how to read. I have no idea. I'm going to stop here. You get the point. Remember when I said the old and new Pokemon games are entirely different genres of games? I think my example of the two scenarios I just gave you will help you see my point of view well. Old Pokemon games are semi-open world, adventure, JRPGs, while new Pokemon games are more of a linear story JRPG. If you don't agree with me, that's totally fine, but it's not going to stop me from blabbing on for the next 10 or so minutes about it. Obviously, I miss the freedom and problem solving of the original games. And while the challenges presented in Pokemon games are never truly difficult, at least I could get a sense of accomplishment when I figured out one of Pokemon's silly puzzles. You remember in the first gen when you're trying to get past the guards in the building that connect the two towns after you get through Rock Tunnel, but they're complaining that they're thirsty? I don't think the game ever mentions how to solve this problem. Or if it does, it certainly doesn't tell you 15 times every time you try to do literally anything else. I remember teaching my friends that they have to go buy a drink from the vending machines and sell it on City so that they could pass that part of the game. Also, as a side note, when I just mentioned Rock Tunnel a second ago, from my first few playthroughs of the game, I didn't even know Flash existed as a usable move outside of battle. And because of this, I did the entire Rock Tunnel in the pitch black. Man, was I dumb, but man, did I get a sense of accomplishment every time I traveled through it. I thought it was a puzzle built into the game or something. Ugh. Anyways, it feels like a mechanic such as the vending machines or Rock Tunnel would never be in a new Pokemon game, and I'm just left wondering, why? Why won't Game Freak put a bit of challenge into the Pokemon games? Why must they hold my hand and explain things to me as if I'm their special little boy? I just don't get it. Does Game Freak think that kids now don't have the attention span to figure out things for themselves? Or does market research just show that a game with a linear story is always pointing you in the right direction just sells better? I have no idea, but my salty ass wishes it wasn't this way anymore. I wholeheartedly understand my bias toward these games. If Pokemon Red came out in 2021, my 26-year-old brain would probably be able to figure out all the puzzles much easier than my younger self, and I know it's not exactly fair to share my experiences as a child that I miss fondly compared to my experience as an adult playing a children's game. However, I can't think of a single part of Pokemon Shield that I got stuck on for even a second. I took so many notes throughout my 20-hour playthrough of Pokemon Shield for this video, but not a single note about a puzzle or a part of the game that I was struggled with or I was stuck on. I will say that struggling inside of a video game is not typically fun, but the feeling of accomplishment after you struggle is fun, and for almost 10 years now, Game Freak hasn't been feeding us the dopamine that our ape brains get from solving problems and prevailing through struggle. I think that's a problem if the games continue to go down this route. Catching all the Pokemon, training them up, shiny hunting, and raiding are all great and fun parts of these Pokemon games, especially for those who just love the Pokemon IP and anything they put out. These are the ones that will never put down a Pokemon game until the next new one releases. However, I am also not alone in the feeling that the main story of the Pokemon games is severely lacking compared to what it could be, and many more casual Pokemon fans like myself would appreciate if the game felt like more than a gym battle speedrun. Ironically enough, I have a suspicion that Game Freak has decided to move toward the more linear story-based games because they felt like their games were simply becoming copy and pasted gym battle speedruns. In my opinion though, they've gone about it the total wrong way. I really enjoy single-player games. Every year I go on a kick where I just blast through my entire backlog of single-player stuff I neglected. Some of my favorite gaming experiences were in a dark room at 2 a.m. blasting through a single-player game because I just couldn't put it down. Horizon Zero Dawn, Resident Evil, Nier, Dark Souls, these are just some of my favorite single-player IPs. And I mention this because I want the audience to know that I do genuinely enjoy narrative-driven games, and I just don't like Pokemon narratives, and I'll explain why. Going forward, there's going to be Pokemon Sword and Shield spoilers. The game has been out for a while now, but I felt like I should mention it anyways. So run away now if you're scared of the truth or my silly opinions. I don't think the Pokemon franchise games going toward narrative-driven games is a bad idea. I really don't. I do, however, think that Pokemon Sword and Shield has an extremely lackluster story. It is the most basic, predictable, and frankly boring story I've ever played through. From nearly the start of the game, I genuinely felt like I could predict exactly what was going to happen in the story. It had no surprise twists, turns, characters, or anything, really. Here's the short version of the Pokemon Sword and Shield story. You're a young, aspiring Pokemon trainer. Your neighbor's older brother is the Pokemon champion, and your neighbor becomes your rival. The champion says, "Man, you two kids can really battle those Pokemon," and he lets us participate in the gym challenge, allowing us to attempt to collect all 8 badges. Now, this isn't the narrative of the game. This is just the recycled formula from every Pokemon game, and that's perfectly fine. The problem is literally everything else. Here's the 3 main characters in the game outside of you, your rival, and the champion. Can you guess which one turns their back on you? If you can't, by just looking at the picture of Mr. Chairman Rose here, his dialogue will certainly give away that he is in fact going to be the backstabber in this story. My brain instantly starts imagining all these ideas of how this skeevy guy who is going to be introduced to me as the chairman of the Pokemon League is going to use his private interests in his organization, Marcos Cosmos. I envision Marcos Cosmos as the undercover Team Rocket replacement, an organization that harnesses the power of Pokemon for an evil reason. And at some point during the game, Chairman Rose would turn at us and ultimately put the Pokemon League at risk, since an evil person has infiltrated the ranks so far and... Alright, let me stop. What actually happens is you learn a little bit about the 2 legendary Pokemon of the region, They once saved the world many years ago. While you complete the gym challenge, the chairman continues to be a sketchball. And once you've nearly beat the game, he finally decides to do his lazy backstabbing far too long into the game for me to care. At this point in the story, I'm literally the damn Pokemon League champion. And this guy Rose is like, bruh, in 1,000 years, the world might end because we're running out of this resource. So I'm going to unleash this absolute unit I found from literally the depths of hell. After a game of hide and seek and an hour of cutscenes, some easy battles, you've defeated Chairman Rose and everything he stood for the entire game. That's Pokemon Sword and Shield in a nutshell. It's the perfection of the Pokemon formula mixed with less problem solving, more hand holding, and a painfully bad narrative. That's just the truth. This game feels like a lazy attempt at rushing out another main series Pokemon game because Game Freak knows that at this point, literally any Pokemon title is going to sell over 10 million copies, and that's fair enough. Even though I feel like the quality of the games has taken a dip over the years, the sales of Pokemon games are basically the same. They're doing just fine. At this point in the essay, it's pretty apparent where I stand on the whole old versus new Pokemon games thing, but I do want to take some time to highlight some of the good features of the newer Pokemon games, specifically Shield, since that's what I just played. These games have improved in some areas, but I think that they can improve even more in their upcoming games. If I'm going to take the time to trash Pokemon Shield for being a different type of game than the older mainline Pokemon generations, it's only fair I give it props on the things it's done correctly. I think the wild area and raids content is a fantastic addition to the game. It really helps you remember that there are others out there also addicted to catching them all, and teaming up with friends to do raids is a great way to keep people playing after they've finished the main game. On that note, all of the online features such as mystery trading, online battles, etc., they're all great for the game. I think that's been a no-brainer for the series once the technology was there, so I'm glad they seem to be stepping in the correct direction there at least. The ability to avoid wild Pokemon in the grass without purchasing repels is also fantastic. I was so pleased that I could simply move out of the way of getting encounters. I may have gone absolutely insane if I had random battles every 10 seconds and a cutscene every 30 seconds. I probably wouldn't have finished the game. Some characters in this game are aesthetically really dope. My favorites were Alistair, Marnie, and Piers, to name a few. Marnie and Piers were cool, but I didn't like that the assumed Team Rocket replacements and Team Yell were actually just good guys rooting for their hometown favorites, not really causing much of a problem at all, except for yelling in public, I guess. I really liked the spin on the Elite Four. The tournament was a nice way to spice things up there in the end game. You still have your final battles that feel epic and whatever. I don't like how they heal your Pokemon for you between every battle, so there's no need for items, which does suck. But I do like the tournament. I thought that was really cool. I also really like the character customization. There are all kinds of cool outfits and haircuts to make your character actually feel unique for what I think is the first time in a Pokemon game, but I haven't played one in quite some time. So Pokédollars are also really easy to come by in this game. The Pokemon games in the past kind of used that currency to purchase things like Pokeballs, potions, revives, repels, etc. I didn't need to purchase an item throughout the entire game because after a cutscene, you'll typically be given plenty of supplies, and I intentionally didn't over-level, so I'd have at least a little bit of a challenge with the story. The Pokédollars are now used basically to customize your character for the most part, which I'm cool with. A lot of the new Pokemon designs were actually cool this generation. In past generations, I felt like the new Pokemon screamed, "We're running out of ideas, turn a trash can into a Pokemon," or whatever, but I didn't get that feeling this gen. All right, let's talk about the Copperjaw in the room. Heh. Did 3D graphics ruin everything that is Pokemon games? Honestly, I don't really think so. And before you double slap me to the face, let me explain why. Do I prefer 2D over 3D? Yes, I do. But I think 3D can be done much more tastefully than it is currently, and perhaps the community would feel differently if the 3D graphics were something to be impressed at. When you look at Sword and Shield, nearly every texture is copy and pasted. I mean, look at the city. I get it, dude. There's a lot of brick in the UK, but damn! That is a lot of brick! I think if they put more effort into making the 3D graphics and textures look a little better, then maybe they could change my and a lot of the Pokemon fans' minds about 3D graphics. But overall, as it is now, it's pretty ugly. I'm sure the Switch's hardware isn't doing them any favors, but if that's truly the case, then honestly, I'd just prefer a beautiful new top-down style game like the remake titles are getting. Sometimes, less is more, and maybe Pokemon should just lose one dimension. At this point in the video, I've come to the conclusion that the Pokemon games definitely have changed, but is it for the better or worse? Some new parts are absolutely better than their old counterparts, but overall I think the games are worse. But it's certainly salvageable. Going forward, Game Freak has already announced Pokemon Legends Arceus, and remakes of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl have been given to an outside developer. The next mainline generation game is still unannounced at the time of this recording, but surely they're working on it. Here's what I think Game Freak should do going forward as some random armchair CEO on the internet. Game Freak, use Pokemon Legends to get all the damn cutscenes out of your system. Use this opportunity of a new Pokemon title to tell your narrative. It's clear that Game Freak and the Pokemon Company want Pokemon to appeal to any and everyone they can. They think that a plot-driven Pokemon game is something people want. They've been doing it for the last decade now. So use this opportunity to make Legends the best story-driven narrative ever told in a Pokemon game ever. And no offense, Game Freak, but that wouldn't be very hard. Pokemon is rich with lore. There is so much lore in this game. Give us something we care about. Make it engaging and make me want to watch the cutscenes. If Pokemon Legends can be a successful narrative game, then the next generation Pokemon game should be a blast from the past. Get rid of the cutscenes every 12 seconds. Stop telling me what to do every moment of the game and bring the game back to its roots. Put some challenging puzzles in the game, make cool and unique Pokemon, make me catch them, give me challenging battles with bad guys and a good rival, and that's it. Really, that's it. That's all I want. I genuinely think if Game Freak decides to take this path and separate Legends and main generation Pokemon games as completely separate style games, I could see it being the future of Pokemon. On alternating years, they could release one narrative game every 2 years and one main generation game every 2 years, making one Pokemon game every year, which Game Freak and Nintendo obviously do prefer to do, considering a new Pokemon game comes out every single year. The future of the Pokemon games is undoubtedly going to be successful. At the end of the day, this is a fantastic franchise, and the sales numbers prove it. I've come to the conclusion that I am jaded by nostalgia, but that doesn't mean I'm the only one. A return to the roots of the series is what a lot of us older fans are missing. If you watched this far, I just wanted to say thanks and subscribe to see more nostalgic gaming content. Also, I want this video to have 1 like. Just 1, all right? For the best generation of Pokemon. The first gen, baby! All right, see you later.